Welcome to the 3% Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast brought to you by 3% and Open Letter. This is Chad Post from Open Letter, and I'm joined as always by Conroe Barish from Riff Raff.
Hello.
And on the line, the audio is not the best quality, but we have Kasia Bartoszynska from the Best Translated Book Award Fiction Committee to talk about the Longlists, the Best Translated Book Award Longlists that were announced last Wednesday. So thanks for joining us.
Hi.
And where are you driving to?
I am driving from Peoria, Illinois to Monmouth, Illinois, where I teach college.
I don't know why I didn't realize that you lived in Peoria.
Yeah. Yes, I live in Peoria.
I've been to Peoria several times.
That's astonishing, really. What brought you to Peoria?
Well, I used to live in Normal when I worked for Delphi Archive, and Delphi was at Illinois State. So Peoria was the big city where they had like a Turkish restaurant. And
that's hilarious.
And a minor league baseball
team. The other way around, actually.
Well, but you also
Peoria does still have a minor league baseball team, but definitely we go to Bloomington Normal more often for better and more exciting food, I think.
It was getting better, but whatever. But anyway, so tell us about what it was like serving on the jury, the fiction jury this year. Without giving away any secrets.
It's been really great. Yeah, I won't give away any details, but I also was on the jury last year. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really cool process to get to do it again for a second time. I feel like I'm better at it this year. And it's been really cool because I think the judges have been a lot more chatty and friendly as a group. There's been a lot more action on our Slack days. There's been a lot more people talking about books they're excited about. So I think we did a much better job of reading books that other people were excited about, which is the real challenge when you're doing this process.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was there any books that didn't make it that you're disappointed about?
A little bit, yes. There are a few that I was very excited about that did not make the cut, yes. But that's the life of consensus building and working in groups. So I will say that there was one book that I was really excited about, and I think 3 or 4 judges all tried to read it and did not enjoy it. So I had to kind of let it go. There was one other judge who really enjoyed it, and then 3 who were like, "This is awful. I can't get through it." So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, it was literally one of my favorite books of the year, but if other people can't even get 50 pages in, then maybe it doesn't sort of make the cut.
Oh, that's tough. Were there any sort of criteria that you guys discussed in your Slack that you can share with everyone as to what kind of drove your decision making process or what was valued by the committee this year?
I think a big thing that we were thinking about was the quality of translation. So there were some books that we really liked, but had moments thinking, if the wording is really awkward here, or the language feels kind of stilted, where we wanted to, we liked it, but it was maybe it's not as effective as others. And our favorite books were definitely the ones where we were really impressed by the language and the way that the translation was done.
Interesting.
It's hard to say without knowing the original, but with some books, you're just reading it thinking, it's astonishing. It's just an amazing work of translation.
I feel like it's always easier to see when their book's not working, when the translation's not working. Definitely. Much easier. Yeah, we had someone talk to our class last week as a translator, and she would have been a judge for the National Translation Award through Alta, and mentioned something about that too. That she did it the year that Esther Allen won for Zama, and she's like, there are a few books that it was easier to hit the ones where you're like, no, this isn't good. Then you can just dismiss it.
Yeah.
But. Tom, do you have any
questions? One of the other things we discussed was whether or not to take into account intros or forewords or translators' own writing about the process. Where there were a couple of the books where the Bride and Groom by Elisa Ganeva on our long list, if you read the afterword, it tells you a little bit about the book and kind of lets you in on some of how it was constructed in a way that really helps you appreciate it differently.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of debate about, should you read the intro? Should that matter? Like that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I just that's the book I taught last week in my class. And that afterward was like hugely revelatory because I didn't pick up on any part of that until I read the afterword.
Yeah, me neither. And as soon as I read it, I immediately wanted to reread the entire book.
Right.
I mean, I really liked the book. I thought it was really like fast-paced and kind of readable and engrossing. But then that ending was like a plot twist where suddenly I thought, oh, now I want to like revisit it and see what else is going on.
Right. Totally agree. Tom, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
No, I'm just utterly shocked that introductions or translator's notes would be something that would be debated as something to be included. That just seems so outside of the book itself.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that if it, it shouldn't be necessary to an enjoyment of the book. Like, I guess my position would be that if you hated the book and then you read the introduction and are like, oh, actually, I like it, then that's not going to work, right? But in cases where it adds some appreciation, then it's a little fuzzier.
But shouldn't it all be on the page? I mean, shouldn't it be in the translation itself? It shouldn't require an extra layer of explanation.
Can I clarify and confuse this a bit at the same time? One is that the afterword that she's talking about is written by the author. It's not a translator's afterword. But then I was curious like how you'd viewed the translator's introduction, because I have to judge a different contest I'm not going to talk about publicly here. But there's the first book that I started is like, a huge academic-y sort of introduction that sort of lays out why this book is important and how the translators had to do it and blah, blah, blah. And those, to me, I find are like anti-persuasive. Like, they make me not want to read this book at all. I feel like they're putting it such a props to make it seem important that when I get to it, I'm just like, no. Like, no.
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
I guess let me muddy it a little bit more by asking them what you think about footnotes.
I hate.
Yeah, I enjoy them.
Really?
I hate her. I'm a hater.
I like them if they're just like there to add some sort of enjoyment. If they're there to down the cultural importance of like some tiny minor little thing that in theory should have been just gathered in context, and if not, then so be it. Then I don't like them. But like, I don't know. There's some like I'm thinking of the Last Manchette, which was published in English last year, had these footnotes because it was a first draft, and he died before he got a chance to edit it. But they left it that way in honor of his wishes. But like there are factual errors, and so they put footnotes because we can't have people assuming that this guy was an idiot.
That I think is a very unique situation. Like in terms of like the percentage of footnotes that exist, like you just define like the 1%. Yeah, those ones are great, but the 99% of them are fucking garbage. They're unnecessary.
But there's also the case, right? Like with translated works, especially, there are cases where people choose to leave words in the original, and then will either have a footnote or a glossary to define it. To me, I would prefer a footnote than a glossary. Like I never really read the whole like glossary vocab list at the end, and I got it boring. But then also cases where there's a reference to something, right? Like a historical event or a specific place that readers from a different, language context or place would not pick up on or recognize, but that is important. Right? So, I don't know. I mean, I'm an academic, so I love footnotes. I'm biased.
My feeling about that was always like I don't know where you judge from the publishing and editing side. I don't know where you judge where you're defining a cultural event for people that wouldn't otherwise know it, or when you're talking down to your readership, especially when your readers have like a phone that they can check on whatever is curious to them. And so like if you put in a footnote for one cultural event and not another, are they then to assume that they're supposed to know that second one? Whereas I feel like putting in none like allows people to just be like, oh, I don't know what this is, but I can Google it. Like Wikipedia exists, like in a way that it didn't, 10, 15 years ago. So I've sort of come to like so many of them, unless it's like, especially the ones I dislike the most are the ones that are that could be added to the text as like an explanation, but then they're just down there on the bottom hanging out, like informing you that the translator didn't take that extra second to make it into the sentence. That's my hot take on footnotes.
Yeah, that's just because I also do translation work, right? So I think about this because to me it's like you can't just add more stuff into the sentence. You know, it's like that. I wasn't there. I don't get to add stuff to explain things to readers in a different language. Like,
I mean,
why the footnotes there?
I mean, mostly within terms of the ones that are like one of the examples that comes up is in Master and Margarita, where it uses homeless as that's the guy's name, right? The poet in the beginning. And in some of the instances they don't translate it. They just use the Russian word. And then it'll be a footnote saying this means homeless. It was part of a trend to like, you know, blah, 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 to like name yourself after various things like that. And people took pseudonyms like Max Gorky, so on and so forth. And you could have easily put in there like blank meaning homeless and like used it in either way from there on out without having to put in the footnote. Those are the ones I mean, like where there's like a little gloss that people can do that just defines that particular cultural item. Could be like a food or a term or a dollar amount or whatever. Just some of those I feel like just get unnecessarily footnoted. Not the cultural event so much as like those little tiny. You want to keep the word, but you need to give someone just one more bit of context. This book that I'm talking about that has the introduction, by the way, it has. I just lost the page. It has. Oh shit! It has 200. Nope. It has 342 footnotes in it. This book is not going to win this prize. Anyways, so was there a lot of dissent and argument on the panel, or was it a pretty happy group this year?
It was a pretty happy group. As you know, our Twitter mentioned, we did have to vote on our long list 3 times, so that was crazy.
That's normal.
And there was I think it's like 5 or 6 books moved in the process. So there were some things that got knocked off and other things that got added. And some of the things that got knocked off did not ultimately make it. So it is not the case that if the book got voted off, it then resurfaced just some did, but some did not. So yeah. But I think overall it was not a particularly convincing group. But I think in some cases we agreed to disagree.
Yeah.
And as somebody just put it the other day on the Slack, that one of the reasons we're all so excited about our long list is because there are books on there that everybody loves, and then there are books on there that some people don't like. So it's kind of got a good range of representation.
Yeah, it had a lot of things I wasn't aware of. At least a few books that just had flown under my radar. In particular, like A Dead Rose by Aurora Casares.
Yes, I love that book.
I couldn't figure out what this was. It was in the database, and like I must have somehow come across it. Mm-hmm. I think I even saw after I said this, I found the actual copy of the book laying in our packing room. So like it came to us, but it was like well beneath my radar. So tell us a little bit about this. Yeah, so you love it.
Okay, so I do love it, and it arrived pretty early. You know, we start getting the books in September, I think. And it was one of the early ones to arrive, so we hadn't gotten a bunch of other books yet. And so I hadn't gotten some of the stuff that was assigned to me, so I was like, I'll pick this up, like, it's short. And I looked at it and also thought, this is from a publisher that, nobody, like, people are not necessarily going to know about this book. So let's see what it's all about. It is such an insane and fascinating, it's a modernist novella by, I think, a Peruvian author who was living in France. And it's about a woman who is having a love affair with her gynecologist, which, for like 1920s France is a pretty risque topic. She's also being treated for, I think, uterine fibroids. And so it's this kind of astonishing, like, work of, like, she's deeply ashamed of her body and what she sees as her, like, repulsive position, but then she also is having this incredible, passionate, sexy love affair. So it's this really amazing melodrama that's all bound up in like women's health and body shame and just grotesque. It's really cool.
Wow. That sounds pretty wild.
Yeah. I think I tweeted about it and was like, if you read one, woman who hates herself and is having a love affair with her gynecologist novel this year, like, let it be this one.
Nice. Yeah, it is the first Peruvian book to be on here, too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I have that tagged in the translation database.
I think it's the translation, from what I've seen, I think it's like a labor of love by a professor who teaches the book regularly and wanted an English version for her students.
Oh, that makes sense, too.
That's my guess, having perused the internet a little bit, because I wanted to send copies of the book to everyone I know, and it's actually not that easy to get your hands on.
No, it's very much not.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Their website is confusing.
Yes.
not to say too much about it, but it is. It's worth a visit to I think it's called. What's the name of it? It's like Stocksero.
Stocksero. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone should go there because like you can buy a book through there, but it takes a few minutes.
Yeah, it is. It's not particularly user friendly.
No, but that's okay. If they do a good book, that's fine. So
yeah, exactly. I kind of thought, it'll be nice for them to get a little bit of extra love, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If this book gets a little more attention, so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
I wanted to ask, this is a sort of leading question that we'll maybe discuss after. Just in general, sort of what publishers' sort of awareness of the award has been this year in relation, has awareness of it increased, and are you getting more books sent to you without demanding them and all of that sort of thing?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I don't really know what's happening behind the scenes with publishers. I know that there were definitely a couple of presses that we kind of had to chase after and ask for books to be sent to us. And maybe even asked repeatedly. And there were there was one press, I will not name, but they sent us, I think, 3 different packages, and they didn't include some of the books that were eligible, and they did include books that weren't eligible repeatedly, which was frustrating. But this year, definitely, I think in late November or December, we all submitted, a list of books that we hadn't received yet that we were interested in. So we really made an effort to get our hands on books. I know also that a lot of us did get books from the library if they weren't sent.
Yeah.
So there were, some of us, like there were books that we had heard about and were interested in that we made an extra effort to read.
This is very cool.
But certainly we were not lacking in books. Many were sent.
Yeah, I'm on that list, so yeah, I'm aware that there were a lot. Yeah. When is the shortlist announced? Do you know? It's May something, right? Yeah. The shortlist is going to come out on 15th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it.
I believe so.
Yeah, so Wednesday, May 15th will be the shortlist of 10 titles for fiction and 5 for poetry. So that'll be that'll be interesting. I made my own predictions. I'm not going to make you go through this, but I think Tom and I will go through and read every one of the titles and make some projection about it or guess as to whether it would make it or not and all that kind of fun stuff. Because this is where the fun games begin. Like we always have the contest of like if you can pick all 25 fiction titles or 10 poetry ones before they're named to the long list, we'll give you a lifelong subscription to Open Letter, but that's like literally impossible. Like there's no way.
Yeah.
So like for this one though, I'm like, oh, you can get a year subscription to the first person who does it, and nobody's ever done it, but people have come really close. So
I'll bet it. I think it would be hard, I think it'll be hard this year. Just following, like we did peruse the Goodreads discussion thread about the long list. So looking at that and looking at the Twitter chatter, it's been really interesting to see what people's predictions are and guesses.
That's fun.
There was one moment on Twitter where somebody said, "Oh, you can obviously tell which books are the judges' pick," and I thought to myself, "I'm fairly certain that you actually can." Like, I think it would surprise me.
Yeah, I'll bet that's the case. I feel like when the times I've seen or found out like a peek behind the curtain on that before, it's always like, oh, really? That was one of them? Like it's always a little bit more surprising because I don't know. There's some of those like books that seem obvious that get left off for various reasons and get put on and feel obvious, even though they weren't the group of 16. For anyone who doesn't know this, 16 of the books on the long list are selected by a voting process, and then 9 books are added where each judge adds one book that they believe deserves to be there. So that is what we're referring to by like the judges pick versus the voted on one. And they're all listed, are all on equal footing in all of the lists. And it does force the ones that are chosen by the judges, does force all the judges to reevaluate those books going forwards into the shortlist and the winning book. And I think frequently some of those judges pick make it to the shortlist because they are really good. It's just they haven't been talked about in the right context yet or whatever. So it's a
I mean, we can't all read every single book, right? So it's really helpful for that book that one person read, towards the end and just didn't have time to tell everybody to hurry up and read.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, we all do as best as we can, but it can't all work.
Well, I really look forward to seeing what you guys come up with for the shortlist. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, and you can verify it. Well, 2 things that you can verify. One is that I know nothing about this. Like, you guys, I've been in zero contact with you guys, zero contact with Patrick about it, except to say, like, who he should be sending information to. Nothing. I have no contact whatsoever. So the long list was as much a surprise to me as anyone else. I kept refreshing the screen to see it come out live so I could read it. And then the second thing is Adam Hetherington and I are not the same person.
I will admit that I have not met you or Adam Hetherington, so I cannot 100% confirm this. But I suspect that is true, that you are not the same person.
Yeah.
But I can definitely confirm that you don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know. So we can't prove that my identity is that I don't have a secondary identity. Which would be this came up from, like, to give a little context, this came up from one of the a professor has been using this like 3% and stuff in the class and mentioned that his class came up with the conspiracy theory that I was Adam, because Adam's posts tend to have like some funny sardonic jokes in the middle. And I was like, oh shit, like I could see this. And then it's like, and his bio is just like Adam Hetherington is a reader. Like there's no information. Yeah. But
I think actually based on your blog post, your tastes are slightly different.
But wouldn't that be part of the game? Like, wouldn't I write about how much I love 17 if I wanted to throw you off the track? I'm just saying. Maybe it's worth it, but anyways. Well, thank you very much for joining us on your commute.
Thank you.
Have fun in Monmouth and in Peoria.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the song.
Okay, cool. Talk to you soon.
Have a good day. Bye.
We're back, and we're going to go through just the names of the long list things, and maybe you could say, like, if you've read it, if you want to read it, and if you think it will make the short list. And I suppose we should start with poetry since that's the quickest, easiest. Do you have it in front of you by any chance?
I do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Emma was supposed to help me out with this, and she's on a plane, so. Oh,
it doesn't help you at all.
Doesn't help me.
Well, we will mispronounce every single name here, and that is fine. It's to be accepted. We are who we are. We do our best. We're trying our hardest. But you have to read the first poetry one because my printout, it's not on here. It's cut off. It just says Nebraska.
Okay. Then it is the right one. So it's The Future Has an Appointment with the Dawn by Tanella Boni, translated from the French by Todd Fredson, authors from Cote d'Ivoire, and it is, like you said, the University of Nebraska Press.
I don't know anything about that book.
Neither do I.
Cool. Okay, second one. Dying in a Mother Tongue by Roja Chamankar, translated from the Persian by Blake Atwood. It's an Iranian book published by the University of Texas. And again, this one I do not.
Me neither. Next, Moss and Silver by Jure Detella, translated from the Slovenian by Raymond Miller and Tatiana Jamnik, Slovenian, and published by Ugly Duckling. Pretty sure we have this at the store, but I have not looked through it.
I read this a long time ago when I was doing a month of poetry stuff in translation. I really liked it. So this one's thumbs up for me, making the short list.
Okay.
Of Death, Minimal Odes by Hilda Hilst, translated from the Portuguese by Laura Ciscarco Eglin, Brazil from Co-Impress. This we just got in, like towards the break, not that long ago, and I gave it to Anthony, so I haven't been able to read it, but I like Hilda Hilst quite a bit.
I could be wrong, and Emma might have to correct me on this, but this might be the one where she really loves Hilda Hilst, and yet didn't like this.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Quite possible.
I'm up. Okay, Autobiography of Death by Kim Haisisun.
I think it's just Haisisun. I think that's a typo.
Oh, that would make more sense. Translated from the Korean by Danmi Choi, Korea, and this is New Directions.
This one's gonna win. My pick.
Okay.
I've read this. I love this. I love Danmi Choi. I love Kim Haisisun. This is my pick. And it would give New Directions their 5th victory. 3rd in poetry. Negative Space by Lujeta Lashenaku, translated from the Albanian by Ani Jilka, from Albania, and this is New Directions. I saw this book somewhere, but I don't think I ever read it. I don't know.
I mean, we must have this, but I can't picture it. I'd have to. I'm afraid if I click away, I'm gonna never come back.
Same thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if we have that. All right. Scardanelli by Friedrich Mayrocker, translated from the German by Jonathan Larson. This is actually, he's an Austrian writer, and this is from Song Cave.
Cool.
This book either.
I don't either. I like the name Friedrich Mayrocker. That's a solid, like, left-handed pitcher out of the bullpen.
That's like a Max Power kind of.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. The Easiness and the Loneliness by Asta Olivia Nordenhoff, translated from the Danish by Susanna Need. She's an author from Denmark, and we published this one. So I have no comments. I refrain from commenting on any of the books we have on this list, but this was the last book in our Danish women writers.
God, how do I say this word? Neok of the Early Spring by Francis Pons, translated from the French by Jonathan Larson. Wait, he on here twice?
Yeah, and he does French and German?
Apparently.
Who are you, Jonathan Larson?
He's author is French, and this is from again Song Cave.
Wow. I don't know Song Cave at all, but they seem to be kicking some ass here.
They do good work.
The first thing that comes up on Google was Jonathan Larson Death, which is a different Jonathan Larson thing. God. But yeah. So next one is Architecture of a Dispersed Life by Pablo de Roca, translated from the Spanish by Oroyoan Noel, Chile, from the authors from Chile, and it's from Shearsman Book. And they always do really good stuff too.
I don't know them. The name does not.
They've been around for a long time. I'll quickly run through these two. The jury this year is Jared Annis from Greenlight Bookstore, Katrine Ogar Jensen from Europe Now, Tess Lewis, writer and translator, Adititi Machado, poet and translator, and Laura Maris, writer and translator.
Oh, Laura.
Yeah, Laura lives up here in Buffalo.
Yeah, she lives in Buffalo. Yep.
They
live here, which is how we know them.
Oh.
She and her husband. Sorry.
Oh, this is a weird interjection, but you saw that Forrest Gander got the Pulitzer yesterday.
Yes. Very happy for Forrest.
Me too. I tried to write him a congratulations last night, but the only email I could come up with was like a Harvard email from him on my phone. I was like, this is not right. Wait.
I can send it to you.
I have it because he emailed me not that long ago too, but I didn't want to pull up my computer because I was like, no, I'm not gonna. I spent all day Sunday writing an article. I'm not doing that work. Okay. So any other thoughts on the poetry?
No, like I mean, we've been over this. I'm not much of a poetry person, although I'm increasingly more of a poetry person. So I don't really have any. I would have to look at all these before I could even fairly comment.
We should make Anthony read all 10 of them and come on and give predictions.
I want him to read all 10 in one day.
In one day, in one, yeah, just one after the other.
Yes.
Just live stream that. That would be great. I would watch Anthony go through all the emotions of reading 10 collections of translated poetry.
Do it.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to start with long list for fiction, or do you want me to? You probably should, because I think the fourth one is missing. So I'll start. No, that means I'll start, and then you'll do 2 and 4. Okay, so first one, fiction long list. Congo Inc., Bismarck Testament by Incolligine Bofane, translated from the French by Marjolaine de Jager, Democratic Republic of Congo, Indiana University Press. This book is sitting outside my door on the floor. I know little bit about it. I think I assigned it to someone to review like last semester, and I think the review was not comprehensible to me.
Okay.
No offense to my students, but that happens every once in a while.
Got it. Up next, The Hospital by Ahmed Bouanani, translated from the French by Lara Verneau. Ahmed Bouanani was Moroccan, and this is from New Directions. They also published Emma's translation of his poetry concurrently.
Right.
So I'm a little biased on this one, and going to refrain from comment.
Do you think it's going to go in? Oh, you're going to not comment. Cool. I have it on my list as a short list title.
I think it is a good chance.
Yeah. A Dead Rose by Aurora Casares, translated from the Spanish by Laura Canos, Peruvian author by Stoxero. This is the one that I know nothing about that she just talked about. It sounds interesting, but I don't have it on my short list because I'm just not sure I know anything more about it. I really just didn't know anything about it. It's like a surprise one on here for me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very interesting, but I'd have to read.
Yeah.
Love in the New Millennium by Shui Kan, translated from the Chinese by Annalise Finnegan Wasman. Author is Chinese, and this is from Yale University Press.
I think that makes the short list. I mean, she's won in the past, so she's got a little bit going for her. I haven't read that book of hers yet, but I'm on board with that being a short list title. Next up, Wedding Worries by Stig Dagerman, translated from the Swedish. Oh, I don't have it. Can you read it?
Slave Old Man by Patrick Chamisseau, translated from the French by Linda Coverdale. Authors from Martinique, and this is from the New Press.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that one didn't show up on the top of my page. I know his books, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know this.
He's been writing for so long.
I don't know.
I feel like Texaco was one of the first books that Linda Coverdale became famous as a translator for.
Yeah.
And that was in like 1998. I'm guessing here. But we did sell it at the bookstore I worked at in North Carolina, so that was a while back. Wedding Worries by Stig Dagerman, translated from the Swedish by Paul Norlin and Lo Dagerman. Author was from Sweden and published by David Godin. I love this book. I've talked about this book on here. I've written about it. I think it's wonderfully funny and in a way that's like not in your face funny and just like silently, like subtly funny. And I think this is a short list title.
Probably, yes. Up next, wow, I keep
you get lucky.
Pretty Things by Virginie Despentes, translated from the French by Emma Ramadan. Author is French, and this is from the Feminist Press.
Definite short list.
Yes.
Next is Disoriental by Nigar Javadi, translated from the French by Tina Cover. Author is Iranian and is from Europa Editions. This was on the short list for the National Book Award for translation as well. I have it. I can see it from right here, but I have not read it. So I'll withhold too many comments, but I don't have it on my short list.
I don't know. There are reasons I think it might not, but there are also reasons where it could very easily.
It's hard to choose 10.
Yeah. Oof. Des Affaires by Frank Etienne, translated from the French by Asselin Charles. What?
Oh, someone fucked that up.
Okay. So
do they even have copy editors anymore?
Who knows? So the author is Haitian, and this is from the University of Virginia Press.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this book.
I know this author because he had come to New York when I was working at Albertine, and he is larger than life and pretty amazing.
Wow.
But I don't know this book. So.
Oh, yeah, it's got a not good cover. You'll have to look it up afterwards, but rough. Rough. No, then I get this one. Bottom of the Sky by Rodrigo Frazan, translated from the Spanish by Will Vanderheiden. Rodrigo's from Argentina, and Open Letter published this title. I didn't choose any of our books for any shortlist because I didn't want to include that. But it's a great book, and we will have galleys of his new The Dreamed Heart in like 2 weeks. So everyone listening, get excited.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and say that this is probably going to make the short book. So
interesting. Okay.
I'm up. Bride and Groom by Alisa Zhaneva, translated from the Russian by Carol Apollonio. Author is Russian, and this is from Deep Vellum.
I just read this book for my class and talked to the translator, and I like it. It's the one that we're talking about with the authors afterward that sort of reframes the book itself or gives you like a clue as to how to read it. It's an interesting book. It's interesting. I don't know. It seems like everyone liked the first book of hers even more than this one, which might weigh against it, but I could see this moving into the on People in the Room by Nora Lange, translated from the Spanish by Charlotte Whittle. Authors from Argentina and the publishers And Other Stories. I have this book and I really want to read it because she was involved with one of the authors that New Directions and Open Letters published, Olivero Girondo. So I think that's interesting. This book looks cool. I'm into it. That's all I got.
Come Madre by Roque Larraqui, translated from the Spanish by Heather Cleary. Author is Argentine as well, and this is from Coffee House. I really need to sit down and read this.
It's I've read it twice now because I taught it in my class, and the first half of it is really good and interesting. It's a strange sort of book. You can do a lot with like interpreting it. I still can't get over the second section. Doesn't work for me as well. Like the latter half of it. It's not even half the book, but it's like the second part. But I have this one on my short list. Moonbrow by Shahryar Mandanipur, translated from the Persian by Khalili Sarah. Author's Iranian, and it's from Restless Books. This book sounds really interesting. I do not like the cover for this, and I've like viscerally just never picked it up.
That is not a good cover. I will agree with you. Looks it's like off by a decade or so.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. This slipped under my radar. Up next, Bricks and Mortar by Clemens Meyer, translated from the German by Katie Derbyshire. It's from Germany and Fitzcarraldo editions. Which, can we pause for a minute here to talk about Fitzcarraldo editions and their eligibility?
Do we really want to talk about Fitzcarraldo editions?
Yes. I'm very confused by it.
Okay, so I can explain. Fitzcarraldo Editions is distributed in the U.S. by Consortium as of last year. They're the books that they did not sell the U.S. rights to that they end up distributing here in the U.S., and those ones are eligible. The same way that Pushkin Press, the books that they do that have U.S. distribution are eligible, or there's another person that comes to mind, One World, has certain books that are UK only and certain books that are distributed in the US. If they're the ones in the US, then they're eligible. But like the version of Nosilla Trilogy, that the two versions of so the Nosilla Trilogy by Agustin Fernando Malo or whatever it is 3 books, and Fitzcarraldo did them separately. None of those books are eligible because FSG did all 3 of them as one collection, and so therefore their first US edition is the FSG one. With this book, I think they sent this to us. I think Jacques sent this to us to look at, and we never made any offer on it. And I'm sure he sent it to other people, and no one did. And so they're distributing it through Consortium, so it's readily available, therefore eligible.
Okay. Well, my question is there a lag time from when they're first published in the UK and they're still trying to sell the rights and all of that sort of stuff?
I think there isn't anymore. I think that there was, because they had a backlog of stuff. And this is one of the books that's in the backlog of stuff, where they had no U.S. distribution for like 3 or 4 years. And then when they got the U.S. distribution, there were certain books that they had never sold the rights to that they then released here through Consortium. And I believe this is one of those books. But that now, going forwards, they have that sorted out before the book's coming out in the UK.
Got it. Okay, good. Glad we got that sorted out.
Yeah, I thought this could have gone in a lot of different directions, but that's a fine one.
Like we get, and I don't know why this is, Maybe they're working on fixing this. Maybe their mailing lists are just kind of weird. We end up getting editions of their books that we cannot sell because an American edition is coming.
Yep.
As a galley, not as something to sell. But we are sent these things. And it might just be because people know Emma or whatever. And it's weird.
Okay, so can I spill a little bit of something? This is well, I mean it's sort of public enough that I don't know that it's, and this isn't whatever. Okay, so last year when I was doing the Penn, I think I talked about this a bit, but when I did the Penn West whatever translation thing, Flights was on there, but the Fitzcarraldo edition, because the other one hadn't come out yet. And I asked about that and was like, but this doesn't seem fair, because when Flights comes out from Riverhead, they're going to just resubmit it for this award. So like, what can a book be submitted multiple times for this award? And they're like, yeah, I guess. They didn't have like a clear answer to it. And in the end, we didn't include that in any part of our judgment or criteria on why the award was given to someone else. That was one of our shortlists, or finalists for the prize. But that was a huge question at first. Like, that doesn't seem right in this case, that you should be submitting for a U.S.-based award for a book that a U.S. publisher will be publishing.
Right. Like, wait, isn't Flights on here? So
it
Flights
is on here. But when I judged that award, it was last year in February, like 7 months before Flights was published in the U.S. The only edition that exists.
Been made.
What's that?
The deal for the U.S. edition had already been made.
Exactly.
See, it's all very confusing.
That's where I think it's that it shouldn't be eligible. If the U.S. is going to be publishing a book, the deal has already been done. The book has been announced by U.S. press. The U.K. edition should not be eligible for the prize.
Okay. All right.
That's my sense. Convenience store one by Sayaka Murata, translated from the Japanese by Ginny Tapley Takamori, authors from Japan, and is published by Grove. And this book, everyone loves this book. I have 14 copies of it, I think, somewhere in my office, and I have yet to read it.
Yeah. We sell this book. We have a staff member who really liked it, and yeah, everyone seems to love it. That's all I can say. After the Winter by Guadalupe Cabral, translated from the Spanish by Rosalind Harvey. Author is Mexican, and this is from Coffee House as well.
I've been meaning to read this because Nick Buzansky loves it.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it either. I think Emma might have read this, but I couldn't tell you what she thought about it. So
I feel like one day I picked it up to read, and I was like, dude, this book is going to bum me the fuck out. And I just put it back down. Transparent City by Anjaki, translated from the Portuguese by Stephen Hennigan, authors from Angola, and the publisher is Biblio Aces. I like the cover for this book.
I don't know.
I haven't read it, but we have it, and I like the cover. It's like sort of I don't know, like minimalist.
Cityscape?
What's that?
A minimalist cityscape?
Yep, minimalist cityscape.
Sure. Lion Cross Point by Masasugo Ono, translated from the Japanese by Angus Turville. This is author is Japanese, and this is from Two Lines Press.
I have this from Winter Institute, but I have not read it yet. Winter Institute 2 years ago.
Yes, I was going to say that would have been bad timing.
Yeah. Fair. The Governess is by Anne Serre, translated from the French by Mark Hutchinson, authors from France, and published by New Directions. And this is also definitely on my shortlist. I flip that page aside, but this one's definitely on my shortlist.
Yeah.
I also have After the Winter on the shortlist, Kuma Madre on the shortlist, just to go back in time. But yeah, this is one solid one for me.
Orafi?
Yep.
Okay, by Ofigur Sigurdsson, translated from the Icelandic by Leighton Smith. Author is Icelandic, and this is from Deep Vellum. Have you read this?
Yeah, I have. I interviewed him. This book is really great. It's really great. He's a really great author and very interesting to talk to. This is a shortlist one for me. I might have said more than 10 shortlist ones by this point, but I don't care. You go back through and count them, listener. Right. Next one, Codex 1962 by Schoen, translated from the Icelandic by Victoria Cribb, author again from Iceland, and publishers FSG, and this is what I predict to win.
That's my prediction.
And not only is that a good prediction, but it ties in very nicely to the fact that the next 2-month review is on this book, starting in 2 weeks. So there'll be a post with all the details, but it worked out really well. We selected that a while ago, and then having this on the long list and we'll see how it plays out. But the podcast will be going on while the shortlist and winner are revealed. So it'll be interesting. He's going to come on. He's great. Oh, cool. So you've read it now too, or are you just...
I haven't read it yet.
Okay, you're just guessing.
Yeah. Flight by Olga Garczyk, translated from the Polish by Jennifer Croft. Author's Polish. This is from Riverhead. This won a Booker. I don't. Sure, it's going to make the short.
Yeah, I could see it making the shortlist, but I have a hard time envisioning it winning just because of the other cultural pressures.
Right.
We'll see. Fox by Dubravka Ugrasic, translated from the Croatian by Ellen Elias Bursak and David Williams, author from Croatia, publisher's Open Letter. This would be great. She's great, but I'm not going to comment on our book.
All right. 17 by Hideo Yokoyama, translated from the Japanese by Louise Hill Kawai, author is Japanese, and this is from FSG. Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, since they apparently are the only publisher that gets abbreviated.
They're abbreviated because they're abbreviated in the database. So when it exports the data, it's exported as FSG because it was easier to find them that way when entering in reams of data.
Sure.
And they have it on their spine that way.
I know. Go ahead with the judges.
The judges: Pierce Elquist from Book Riot, Caitlin Baker from Island Books, Kasia Bartoszynska from Monmouth College, Tara Cheeseman, who's a freelance book critic, George Carroll, who runs litandtranslation.com, Adam Hetherington, who is a reader and maybe my alter ego, Keaton Patterson, Brazos Bookstore, Sophia Samatar, writer, and Eli Watson, Room of One's Own, or Elijah Watson. So, yeah, and Adam is not me. I can just confirm that. I just think it's funny. I kind of want to play it up a little bit. But he lives in Tulsa, and he's a person.
He's a person.
Yeah, with his own volition, his own agency, his own ideas about books. So, which two are you most upset didn't make it? I know one of them. I know both of them.
I mean, I think if anyone pays attention to our podcast, I'm supposed to. God, I'm going to forget his name. And Emma's on a plane. Someone in Dallas who's a big fan of ours, who listens to every podcast, who was at an event Emma was at last week. I was supposed to give him a shout out, but I've unfortunately.
Is the person's name Ryan?
Could be. Did you meet this guy?
Ryan Lamar?
I wasn't there. I don't know.
I don't know. No, I wasn't there either, but I know that he listens to the podcast. He's a fan. I believe he lives in Dallas. Like, he fits all the other pieces of information he gave me.
So, yes, for anyone who keeps track, it's kind of shocking to me. One is a real shock, and I think it might be explained simply by the fact that the publisher just didn't submit the book. But I also know that shouldn't hold up judgment, and that would be Paradise Rock, which
that's the one I knew.
I mean, it's not that I think it's just it got snubbed. I think that book is fucking amazing, and I know I'm not alone. And I'm kind of shocked it didn't make it.
I'm curious as to when she talked about the book that she really liked that other people didn't like, what book that might have been.
I don't think it could have been Paradise Rock.
Okay.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But I do think it's possible that like one person had a copy and no one else did, and it just was dependent on one person to champion, and that just didn't happen.
That's true. That is always one of the big question marks, is if because everyone does go get it, but one judge is assigned it. So if the publisher doesn't get it to you on time, the other judges aren't obligated to go find that one book, but the one judge is, and if that one judge isn't into it, then you're
right.
So it's always best. This is a warning. If you're a publisher, just send all the book. I know that it's an expense, but just send it, because otherwise you could get screwed. And the other one has to be Ivory Pearl, right?
Well, no. I mean, yes, okay. I'm disappointed in that, but I totally understand. It's a weird fucking book.
Yeah.
It's more of a piece of archived material than it is a novel. It's a fascinating thing if you've read a lot of other Manchette books, certainly. But as a novel, it's debatable whether it holds up, right? Because it just stops halfway through, and then the rest of it is just these outlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very interesting, but kind of not really a novel. No, of course, and you're gonna disagree with me here and shit on this, but is the Matthias Senard, which I thought was really, really phenomenal, and everyone that I've put it in their hands and read it has agreed. And we're talking, of course, Seldom of Apples, Kings, and Elephants.
I forgot that even was eligible this year. So yeah, I'm not going to shit on anything. Everyone has the right to their opinion. I'm more surprised that there are no archipelago books on here.
Is this the first time?
It has to be. I mean, I could run that because I have it all coded in the translation database that you can look up long list, short list by whatever you want. They're all tagged that way. But I can't imagine that it's happened in the past.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's that.
25.
What's that?
With 25 on the long list, it'd be hard for them not to be
And
on
the one that it would be most obvious would be My Struggle. So if you're saying like Anard's very obvious, My Struggle is very obvious too. I mean, I know other people don't like him because of his persona and his feel, so I guess I can kind of get it, but at the same time, it just seems like wow, surprising.
Right. Is this also the last one?
Yeah.
Right. Isn't this supposed to be the time when they finally award him for like the whole series?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. That's not happening.
Also, Transit's Blue Self-Portrait. Everyone really seemed to love that book, and Transit seems to have. Yeah, you tell me your point, but like Transit seemed to not have a book on here either, and I felt like they should have something. That would have been obvious.
They don't publish very many books per year, so that's part of the issue. That book was. I haven't read it. I'm just going based on what Emma told me, and I generally like Transit books. Just I think I have similar tastes to the editors.
Yeah.
It seems minor, is what is the word I would use. Not that it was bad. It just sort of not grand enough or something to make a list.
There was the other book that they had that was most likely to make it would have been River by Esther Kinsky. But when Adam talked to my class about that, he was like, people either really love this book or really hate it. So it could have fallen into that category of like what Kasia was talking about of the book that people like, some people liked and other people really didn't like. That I could see that playing out too.
And just without revealing like the voting process or anything to the readers or listeners, sorry, a book to make the list like of whatever 16 before the judges add their own picks. It basically has to be liked by 2/3 of the people. It can't be just an even split, right? Like it does require a majority.
That's true. That's very true, and that does make it tricky.
So you're talking 6 out of 9, and that's
right. If you have a book that's a divisive book like that, then 6 out of 9 seems very difficult to hit. Right. I'm surprised that the Dag Solstads weren't on there too.
Yes, I thought about that too. I was writing an email last night and mentioned Solstad, and I was like, oh, that's weird. All right, can I pick 10?
Yeah, pick them.
All right, this is Hospital, Love in the New Millennium, Wedding Worries, Pretty Things, Bottom of the Sky, Bride and Groom. Already 8, Jesus.
I have 6.
Really? Okay. I'm bad at counting. Governesses, Kodak. All right, I skipped a couple. And After the Winter. What does that get me to?
9.
Bricks and Mortar?
Interesting.
I can see that one making.
I just don't know what that book's about. I know we have it, but I don't really remember what it's about. It's been like floating around for a while. That one's a hard one for me to guess.
I think, well, I'm totally guessing here just based on reputation of these things. There are some others that I could see slipping in and out. Oh, I forgot Orafi.
Oh, yeah.
That would probably be like.
Could there be 2 Icelandic books on the short list?
It's just one of those years, I guess.
That'd be wild. That'd be very wild. I know you need to go, so next week or next time, I have an article I want to ask you some questions about.
We also need to talk about the playlist. Indie playlist promotion.
Yeah, we do. Yep. We'll do that. We'll do that. Plus publishing 2025 of Vision.
When was this article written?
It was written on March 25th. I don't want to share it with you because I want to read the predictions and then let you comment on them.
Okay, that's fine. I will avoid it. I just the boldness, and I'm using air quotes here. The boldness of going into the future in mere 5 years, kind of fucking ridiculous.
Yep. The first one you'll just be like, oh, okay, cool, and then it gets a little bit weirder from there. But not really. Like it's kind of amazing because it seems like it wants to be bold, and yet is only 5 years in the future, and every one of the projections is sort of like. We'll save it next time, guys. Next time. You have fun. I know you have to run the store by yourself today, right?
Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah, have fun with that. I'm gonna go teach Xiao Hong book and then post this podcast and do our sales report. So,
can I recommend a book?
It's yeah.
Damon Krukowski. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I absolutely know who that is. I've known him forever, and I just want to buy that book, but I just downloaded the podcast.
They're different. I've listened to the podcast and read the book, and I will say they certainly play with each other in a very interesting way. But yes, so we're talking about Damon Krukowski. He was a member of Galaxie 500, who I adore,
yep.
and he's now in a band called Damon and Naomi. That's his wife. He teaches music at Harvard, and MIT Press just published a book called Ways of Hearing, which is basically a discussion and analysis of the way that digital audio in general, not just music, but cell phone technology and all these sorts of things are changing the way that we interact with sounds in our lives. And it is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
And surprising you left out that he founded and ran Exact Change, the
experimental
surrealism, Dadaist, metaphysical publisher of great books.
Which he's still doing.
Yeah, but I don't know how active it is. Do you?
It's like 1 or 2 a year that I make it into a catalog. I think it's distributed by MIT as well.
Oh.
And we order a lot from MIT Press. They do really interesting things. And they're like up the street. So, an hour up the road. But I see like 2 books a year. They have a little following here because he kind of started it down in Providence and all that sort of stuff. So
They do have they're distributed by DAP, and they have a new book that came out in September 2018 called The Book by Stefan Mallarmé. So they are still active, but it won't let me click on it on my phone, so I can't tell you anything more.
It's funny. Our downstairs neighbor is like a music person. That's like, she spends all of her free time, going to these shows at little clubs and things like that. And I think, as a freelance music writer and all that sort of stuff, she loves all those she also buys a lot of books from us. Loves Exact Change.
Yeah, they're great. They're so great. They used to sell a lot of stuff at their concerts too. I was going to recommend a non-translated book is Meander, Spiral, Explode, Design and Pattern and Narrative by Jane Alison. I started reading this last week and I absolutely love it. It's like kind of a half craft book, half book about reading and finding pattern that is different than the whatever Freytag's triangle of like rising to the climax and resolution, and talking about how it starts with like Immigrants by Sebald and some other examples of how you can pattern narrative and stories that don't fit that particular diagram, but that fit other natural patterns that one sees in nature and elsewhere that are repeated frequently. And it's really great. It's very readable and thought-provoking. I'm going to use it in my class next year.
Cool. Okay. With that, I need to go to work.
Good deal. I will talk to you later, man.
All right. See you. Thanks.